Hi guys, I think I'm finally here and I won't go too far into this until I get the video caught up to where I can find out if you guys can actually hear me because we are having some serious technical difficulties tonight. I'm surprised I'm only 4 minutes late because this has been not cooperating tonight. I hate Windows 10 so much. Anyway, so I'm working in oil paint tonight. I am using, for the majority of this, Winsor & Newton Artist colors. My titanium white and my black are both Weber Permalba, but other than that, everything are the Winsor & Newton Artist colors. I am working on a Fredrix oil-primed Belgian linen canvas. So nice to paint on. If you've not painted on these, the oil paint just glides across these. Now, the Belgian linen canvases from them I do like anyway, but the oil primed, if you're working just in oil, strongly recommend these. And just for transparency, this video or this canvas was provided to me by Fredrix, but this is not a sponsored video. I would have used this canvas regardless because before I had ever even talked to Fredrix, I had pretty much sworn off all other canvases because of problems I had had with them. So let's see. Good, you guys can hear me. So tonight I've got my palette set up, so you're actually going to be able to see this for the first time pretty much ever, or at least on a live stream. Get my reference photo up. So what I'm doing tonight, I have painted everything first with gray, black, and white. It was Davies gray, I believe, or Payne's gray. I don't remember which one. They're similar. But I painted everything in just this gray scale. I got all of my details on here that I wanted, and now all I have to do is tint the color. It's super easy. It just saves a lot of time. So if you're having a hard time when you're working in portraits and you do have a hard time getting your details, you know, getting the nose, getting everything right, and balancing, blending the color, paint it first in black and white and then glaze over it. It takes a lot of that out because now you're only really worrying about color at this stage. I've already got my details. I have the eyes where they go, the nose where they go, that sort of thing. So let's go ahead and get started. And usually I will use tackle and bristled brushes when I paint in my base layers, just because they're very soft, or not base layers, but when I start glazing. That is not what I want. Let's see. I have a lot of brushes. I'm a bit of a brush hoarder, and this is only like a quarter of my brushes. So now I just have to decide which one I want to use to lay this down. This guy looks good. So this one is a tackle and bristled brush. This is a number 4 filbert from, this is the Hobby Lobby generic. And let's see. Let's grab this couple of these guys for the background. Okay. Emily wants to know what made me choose my hair to be half black. Because my natural color is blonde, and if I can't pull, right now I need to do the black roots really bad. My blonde roots are showing, and it makes it look like I'm balding. So I pull, leaving the front blonde, I'm able to pull it back and hide it, basically, is why it's half and half. Okay, so I'm going to actually start with part of the background. That way, if I get the background onto the skin color, I'm just going to wipe that off with a paper towel and don't have to worry about it. But if I had painted the skin first and accidentally got green where I didn't want it on the portrait, I can't as easily wipe that off. So I'm going to start, the stuff in the middle is my Liquin. This is Liquin Original. I used a lot of the Liquin Fine Detail when I needed the smaller, thinner lines. So that is what that one is for. If you look, I've got most of this, I think, listed in the video description, the supplies that I'm using. So I'm going to start with this olive green and just start tinting the color. Now, part of what I do, unfortunately, will be off camera just because of the way I've got this set up. Another thing I want to point out, right now, the view that you guys have, his head looks gigantic, like really out of proportion. And his forehead should be bigger because of the way his head is angled, but it looks even worse on the live stream video just because of the way I've got the webcam. When you see this straight on, it is correct, but I know I'm going to get people commenting that it's drawn wrong. It wasn't. This is actually very, very accurate, but the camera angle, not so attractive. So see how as I do this, I'm tinting the color. You can still see my brush strokes behind there, and I can be really messy. I don't have to really worry about anything. And actually, normally when I do my first glazes, it would take me maybe 30 minutes of painting, and then I just have to let it dry. So a lot of tonight will be talking and answering your questions. Now the palette, what I've done is taken, I can't talk, my normal webcam that I have on my face and put that on the palette, and then I'm using my laptop webcam for the third view. So I actually have some ideas. I want to try to set something like this up so that my regular tutorials, you can always see my palette, but I've got some ideas that would require me to buy more camera equipment. So sometime in the near future, hopefully that will be something that I do. So I'm just going to go ahead. I can put this whole color, I've got oil somewhere on my hands where it doesn't belong. So grab my paper towel, wipe the brush off. You can see how I'm mixing the liquid into the paint. A little bit of paint goes a very long way. Oh, that's going to be too opaque, so I want to thin that out with some more liquid. Oh, good call. Valerie just asked if I was recording. I was not. Thank you, Valerie. As if I didn't already love you. I love you extra now. Okay. So I am recording now. I'm so glad you mentioned that. So see, again, I don't worry about my brush strokes. I'm just being super messy here. And I like these Taklon bristle brush. Usually with oil paint, I really like my synthetic hog-haired bristled brushes. But when it comes to the glazing, I normally really prefer my Taklon bristled brushes. They're slightly softer. So working off camera. Those of you who are supporters on Patreon are used to me doing that. This just feels like home for you. So you can see here, like I'm being a little messy. I've got some on his head. No big deal. Well, maybe you can see it. That might be off camera. I am going to, I can clean that up later. Make sure you guys, if you have art questions for me, make sure you highlight, do the @Lachri Fine Art, how you can see where it highlights in orange. If it's not, I won't actually see the message. So it just looks to me like you guys are chatting amongst yourselves. GSAT says, where are your cute studio assistants tonight? They are in the living room in their crate. They've got a really big crate. It's actually two large dog crates basically I've attached together. So it's big. It has a very large bed in it. And they are in there sleeping right now. If I let them out while I'm painting or as soon as I start talking, and I found this when I podcast too, I have to put them in their crate. Because as soon as I start talking, that's when they get up and want something from me. They want to go outside, and it doesn't matter if I took them outside right before I started. So I have learned that it's best when I'm doing anything live that they go in their crate. They like it in there anyway. It's got their good bed. And then the chicken, of course, has to be in the other room because he cannot be around the oil painting fumes. I do not want to kill the baby shoulder chicken. And I really don't care if my brush strokes show. I mean, it's almost better for me if they show more because I want to build up that texture in the background anyway. Laura Scott wants to know what medium my underpainting was. It was also an oil. I'm working on an oil primed linen canvas, and so with the oil primed you have to only work in oils. I couldn't do an acrylic underpainting on this, and because I was going to do so much blending with the face, it's easier to do in oils. Portraits are much easier in oils than acrylics. It can be done in acrylics and look just the same. It's just a lot harder. Lila wants to see the little chicken. He cannot come in here, not while oil painting. The fumes are very toxic to birds. But he's doing very good. My husband is on vacation right now, and the chicken is really, really happy about that. He likes all of the extra attention. So I'm going to take a little bit of raw umber. I think I've got some Van Dyke brown in there. I'm going to start getting these brown tones into the background. And this is going to be, I would guess, 3, 4, 5 layers I'm going to do, where I'll do a layer, let it dry, do another layer, let it dry, to build up the tones that I really want here. So this area I'm going to have a lot darker, and then down here, this area around the side of his head, I'm going to go quite a bit lighter. Someone wants to know who the model is. It's actually a model from Graphic Stock. It was one of the photos there. It's a sports guy. I don't know. He was like in a gym or something. But the photos of this guy are phenomenal. There were several that I downloaded, and I think I'm going to do another portrait with him, but I'm going to do it in a much looser, more stylized way, so I can give you guys some tips on painting portraits that way too. But I think it'd be kind of fun to do the same model, or paint the same model. So you can see that same, because there were a few photos that were just gorgeous that I wanted to work from. So we'll do some in another style. Katrina wants to know if I am scumbling and glazing over acrylic underpainting. Nope, this is an oil painting under the start to finish. Emily wants to know the shoulder chicken's name. We just call him Chicken. Originally his name was Jace, which I think switched. My husband was talking about switching it to Sheldon, but it doesn't matter because all we ever call him is Chicken. So Chicken is his name. Okay, I want to get a brighter, start getting some of these brighter reddish brown tones in here. The computer is in the way, so it's hard to move the brush the way I need to over on this side of the canvas. Now the trick to oil, I know a lot of people are always afraid or intimidated by the idea of working in oil. The only thing that ends up really being hard with oil paint is knowing when to let the paint dry. Too often when you get started, you want to blend and blend and blend because it stays wet so long, and people will blend to the point where they create mud. And the trick there is just stop, blend what you need to, stop and let it dry, and then go on to your next layer. But you want it to basically let it dry where you would with acrylics. And if you've been painting in acrylics, oil, once you get the hang of how to use the mixing medium, it's actually very easy. Madison wants to know if I'm planning to make this into a shorter time-lapse video with voiceover. Of course, I have to actually do that with every single thing that I paint, because I don't have time to paint things that will not be one of the Wednesday videos. This one will also be a longer one for Patreon too. So here you can see where I went onto a shoulder. I can just wipe that off. And Q-tips for oil painting, I love them. One of my must-have supplies. I should probably add those to my supply list on my website. And the color, one of the things that you really won't see on this is, or on video, or even when I take a photo, when you see this in person, the way that what's happening is these paints, they're really thick, especially with my glazing medium. And so what ends up happening is the light refracts through each layer, it kind of bounces around in there, and you end up with a lot of depth, so it doesn't look like just a flat print or what you see on camera. Having the liquid like this and the several layers, and the way that I'll do several layers or paint several layers on this, you're going to get a lot of light refracting through here. Jennifer wants to know if I use linseed oil. I do not. When I first started painting with oils, I did, but I stopped because it takes too long to dry, so I use liquid instead. I much prefer that. What I'm painting tonight will be dry and ready to paint again if I wanted to. Well, I'm taking the next few days off, but I would be able to paint my next layer tomorrow. Z Wang wants to know how, with my, let's see, hi Lisa, with your video recording, how do you manage all of your large video files? You have many hard drives for storage? Yes, I have 2 external hard drives. One is full, one I'm working on, but I keep them all on an external hard drive. And I save everything because with YouTube, you never know what's going to happen if something gets deleted. We had a few weeks ago or a month ago, I don't know when it was, where my account was hacked and I had to come back through. I wasn't sure what I was going to have to change. And if they can get into that, they could have deleted the videos too. They did not, but it's kind of scary. So yes, I keep everything on external hard drives. Mara Black wants to know if I can use a hair dryer to dry this so I can glaze too. Nope, you've got to let oil's different than acrylics. You need to let it cure. You do not want to use a hair dryer. Plus, it's flammable. So also, you don't want to add heat anyway, but it wouldn't really help you much regardless. Letty says she misses me. Letty was one of my students at Hobby Lobby when I taught. She was one of the last group of students that I taught live before I stopped teaching classes in person. Hi, Letty. Julia says that the coffee shop is going to be hosting her mini galleries. That's really cool. Congratulations on that. Ricardo wants to know if I have more tips or recommendations besides photo references for giving faces variety in shape and form. Sorry for the bad spelling. Hi from Mexico. Hello. Let's see. Well, yeah, I mean, your reference photo is really a big deal. No, there are books you can get, and I can't remember the one that I recommend. I made a video on it a while ago. I have it in here somewhere, I think. But books on anatomy can help, definitely. But the more you draw people, the more you're going to start recognizing when the anatomy is not correct if you continuously draw them correctly again and again. So that is really, really just a big deal, just the practicing and being used to that. Sass wants to know the difference between regular liquid and liquid fine detail. The liquid fine detail is extremely thin, and so I use that like when I work around the eyes where I need fine lines for like the eyelashes, or here where I was building up the skin texture, the little dots, which you cannot see on this video, unfortunately. You'll see it on the, I think it shows on this one. Yeah, you can see it on my good camera. It's too washed out on this one, but I built up skin texture by applying a whole lot of dots to his skin. That was done with the the fine detail. The area around his mouth where I've got all of these fine lines, that was with the liquid fine detail, because if it's too thick, it's really hard to get those little lines, those little teeny details. But with using the liquid fine detail, I'm able to do that. You can also thin out your regular liquid with your paint thinner. That will give you a similar effect. It's easier. I just prefer to have the fine detail myself. But that is what that's for. What I'm using right now is the regular liquid because I'm working on large areas, and it's going to be a lot thicker with this. Oops, let's scroll down a little bit here. Simone wants to know, let's see, the mop brush that you recommended for this painting is different from the one in your acrylic paintings. Is that because it's oil paint? Yes. With oil paint, with the ones I use for acrylics, they're softer than what I want for oils for a mop brush. These are just, for me, I love the texture of these ones. This is the Royal Soft Grip. They are a little bit more stiff. They shed like crazy. I mean, if I sit here and pull this out, I will always get clumps of I want to say fur. Well, I guess it's kind of fur. Yeah, they're coming out all over. But the paint dries so slow, I can just pick it out. It's fine. They're really inexpensive. And the ones that I use for acrylic are just too soft. They're not my preference. We'll see if I end up I change my mind on stuff all the time. But right now, those are still my favorites for the oil paint. Okay, I think, let's see. I'm going to pull a little bit of this color in here and a little bit of my yellow ochre. Just start getting some other colors. Nope. Okay, so what's happening right now, this brush has too much paint on it. I'm getting too much of the previous brown. So what I'm going to do is just take my paper towel and pinch the paint that's on the brush off. And now I can reload it and have the color that I wanted there. Now I've got those more yellowy tones mixed in. Now I've got a few areas that I'm probably going to pull a phthalo blue into this background, but I'm not going to do it tonight because I will create mud with the colors I currently have down. I want to make sure I get that background right up against the head. I don't want it to have a halo effect where the brush strokes stopped. Leela wants to know if I ever rewatch my videos. I try not to. It's like, oh, I should have done this differently. Oh, I should have worded that differently. It kind of drives me crazy. So I don't typically rewatch mine. Anthony wants to know why I don't advertise the bell button by the subscriber button. It gives people notifications when my videos go live. You know what? I really should. You are right. I'm bad about not advertising stuff that I probably should. No, you are right, and I can mention that now. There's a bell next to the subscribe button. If you guys click on that, it'll let you know when my videos go live, all of them during the week. It gives you a notification on your phone, I believe. So that is definitely an option. I mentioned it on one of the endings of my videos recently, and I always forget to say it. Usually when I get to the end of my videos where I go through that whole spiel, I have, what brush do I want now? Actually, I could probably just use this brush. I have already, I'm used to saying it my normal way, and I forget to mention new stuff that I think like that. I did it once and then never did it again. Let's see. JPC13 Art says, I've been trying to paint and draw recently, but I'm so uninspired to create. Do you have any advice on getting over artist block? Yes, create anyway. Find something, go to Pixabay or wherever. Let's say you're interested in animals, go look up a great horned owl, whatever it is. Go look up a banana, it can be anything. Look up a photo of anything and draw it, whether you're in the mood or not. The more you start doing stuff, you'll get to where it just becomes natural. You'll end up in the mood unintentionally, I guess. You have to get up and do it. It doesn't just come on its own. And that's a mistake that a lot of artists who think that they want to be professional artists, but they don't get very far, make. They wait for inspiration to hit. You know what? If you want to make a job out of this, if you really want to do this regularly, just sit down and do it, whether you're in the mood or not. So that is one thing, just do it. The more you paint and draw, the more ideas will come to you too. Because let's say you start drawing an apple. It seems super boring. And while you're drawing that apple, you may think, I wonder what it would look like if I had a clownfish swimming around the apple, if I had an octopus sitting next to it. I don't know, things just start going through your head, but those things don't come on their own while you're sitting in front of the TV or playing video games. Those ideas come when you actually sit down in front of the easel with your art and start working. So that's my big tip for you there, is just do it anyway. Go find a photo. You don't wait to be in the mood. It's not going to happen often enough. So what I'm using here, I'm taking my brown tone. This one, I've got so many brown tones out, I don't even know which one this one is. This is, I think, burnt sienna. I don't know, one of the brown tones. I'm going to layer a lot on here, so I'm not super worried about everything being perfect. And when I say layer a lot, I don't mean tonight, I mean after this. This is just layer number 1, getting started by tinting the color. Now here, I don't want my brush strokes showing, so I will blend these out. Yeah, but artist block, that concept happens when people are waiting for this magical, I need my muse to hit me. It doesn't happen. You have to sit down, pick something, and paint it. You don't have to be in the mood. That mood will follow, but you have to actually put in the effort to do it first. I think that was a mistake I used to make too when I was younger. I was like, I'm not in the mood to paint, so I'm going to work on this project. I'm going to do one of 800 other things. And it's like, I didn't get very much done. Now that this is something, my entire income comes from art. So I have got to sit down and do it. I can't sit around waiting to be in the mood. And there are plenty of days, more often than not, I'm not really in the mood. I can always think of other things I want to do instead. As much as I love painting and drawing, you can always come up with something else that you're like, I'd rather go on a walk. I'd rather go do this right now. It's too nice outside. But if it's something that you're serious about, you have to set the time. And I think that helps too. Set a schedule. Make a to-do list or a schedule. You can use Google Calendars is great. Give yourself a schedule and say from this hour to this hour, I'm going to draw whether I'm in the mood. And set that time limit. I would say don't even just say I'm going to draw tonight. Go, okay, I'm going to draw from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And make yourself do it. I think that self-discipline is just such a big part of that creativity coming. The people who are painting all the time, they're not doing it just because they're in the mood. They're doing it because they're serious about it. And that mood follows. Poppy Crafts wants to know if I work from dark to light in oils. No, I don't. I go back and forth. It depends on what I'm doing. I don't have a definite rule. Like with colored pencil, I usually work light to dark. Oils, acrylics, no, I don't have a definite rule on that. It just depends on what I'm doing, what area I'm working on. Because it works different. I'm able to layer lights on top of darks. Now, my lightest colors will go last. My very, very lightest colors, I always come back through later. But for the most part, like when I'm initially blocking things down, I usually will start with this sort of mid-tone and build from there. Now this color on the webcam looks super yellow. I wish it was more accurate. It is on this one. You guys will see or not next week, the week after when this video goes up. But this color that I'm using here is not nearly as yellow as it looks. Actually, I wonder if I can change the setting because that is really deceiving. One second here. Let's see. Easel cam. What cam is this? The easel cam. Configure video. I'm using OBS. If you are working with a lot of different camera angles like that, I love OBS for live streaming. Exposure, white balance. Let's see if I can adjust this a bit. Yeah, this is going to look much better. Okay, I think that should look a lot closer to what it actually is. That was coming out, it looks super yellow on there. Okay, so we should be good now. Because the color that I'm using is more of a reddish brown. It's not super yellowy. What I'll do now, as I start blending these bigger areas, I can take that mop brush and just soften that out so I get rid of those brush strokes on his head. And I'm blending back and forth between his head and the background. I want to make sure I don't have heavy lines there. Now, here is what I do when the brush is shed. I'm just going to grab, let's see, this one will work. This one's a fairly stiff brush, and I will just lift out those little hairs, whoops, that got in there. I think that was the only one. Quinn wants to know if I'm planning on keeping the brush texture in the background. Yes, I am. The background's going to be very rough, and it kind of blends into his body. His head, the edges will be sharp, but his shoulder and his arm here, the background will blend into it. Paul is complaining about the aluminum foil under the lights. I know, and I apologize for that, but it's what I work on, and it's what I like. So I change certain things for videos to make them better, but that's what I use. The main thing I want you guys to see with the palette isn't me mixing the colors so much as how I'm blending the liquid and thinning that out to get it to the right consistency. That's what you really want to see. And actually the colors are, the greens you can't really see, but the browns look pretty accurate to what I'm seeing. So I apologize for the reflection, but it's what I like to paint on, so that is going to stay. Emily said, I painted my first dog 2 days ago because you inspired me not to give up. That's awesome. Good job. And here we go. Scrolled too far. You guys are shocked. I know. Oh my gosh. I apparently scrolled way too far. There we go. Wolfsong says, do you ever draw in a stylized or cartoony way just for the fun of it? Yeah, in my sketchbook mostly, but I don't have, it's not something that I've really ever been that into. I've always preferred realistic work, but occasionally I'll play around with more stylized stuff. Anthony Cassidy said, I told somebody that they shouldn't put gel pens on top of colored pencils on finished pieces. They said that it didn't matter as much because colored pencils are dry. What do you think? They're sadly mistaken, unfortunately. They have been misinformed. And there are some amazing artists who use gel pens and don't want to talk about the fact that that is not archival. So I don't know. I see some awesome artists do that, and I personally wouldn't. If he wants to do it on his work, great. I would definitely not recommend it. That is, because they're dry has nothing to, they're not really dry. They're still wax. They're still oil. It's still not archival. They still chip and cause problems over that. So no, he's just sadly misinformed. Which oil paint brand do I recommend? I have been using Winsor & Newton just because it's easy to get. I can go to Michael's, Hobby, everywhere has it. So that's why I've always used that. But I've also used Grumbacher. I really like that. I've got is it Williamson, Williamsburg, Williams something. I've got some samples of those. Those are beautiful, really nice and creamy. The Winsor & Newton aren't as creamy as some of the other brands that I've used. That's the main drawback to them. But I thin them out with liquid anyway, so it doesn't, for how I work, they're fine. And they're just easy to get, which is why I started with them. And it's one of those things, it's like I could try other ones or switch to other brands, but I've always used these, so I'm just too lazy to switch over. But I do like the Winsor & Newton, both the Winton. I used the Winton for a long time. That is like the student grade. I use the artist brand now. But both I think are really good to start with, and you can learn a lot from using those. But they're fairly inexpensive, and they are carried at most art supply stores. So those are some of the things that I really like about those. Just they're so easy to get. Sass says, I want to be a professional artist, but I just started a few months ago. So I donate paintings for groups and clubs, silent auctions and such. Then I try to paint something suitable. There's not a question there. I have nothing to reply. That's awesome. Let's see. Mizzino said, is there an alternative way to tinting color in oil painting besides glazing? If so, can you discuss the... I don't know what you mean. I mean, glazing is how... Tinting color is glazing. That's how you tint color. You can paint over something and change it all together, but it's not glazing. It's not translucent. So if you mean just painting... I mean... Okay, you can paint things, which I'm going to show on a more stylized painting, where things are very thick. Your paint is very thick. I'm going to just go through here really quickly because this is just my first layer. But you're not going to build up, the skin won't generally look quite as realistic. You won't have that kind of glow to the skin that you'll get from glazing like this. That I think is all I can answer to the difference there. I mean, this is an easier way, I think, to paint for sure. To layer, you have more control. It's not as overwhelming of trying to get the drawing and the painting and everything all at once. I've already, just in black and white was able to get all the detail. Everything's there. So now all I have to do is tint color. But as far as tinting color, that's done. The word tinted would be done with glazing. You can change color completely by putting opaque colors over it, but you don't have the depth there. Actually, we'll just go over his lips with this color too, because usually when you paint lips, unless it's a woman wearing heavy makeup, the lips are generally going to be a very, very similar color to the skin. I will tint this a little bit more with some magenta, like a slight bit of magenta mixed in with the brown tones, but for now, just tinting it like that works. Margie said, I had a hard time finding this tonight, so you might have already answered this, but what medium are you using? Are you using transparent paint or dry brushing? I am glazing. I am not dry brushing at all. This is, I'm tinting the color with, it's all done in oils. And all the supplies that I'm using are listed in the video description. What medium artwork of DR wants to know what medium I enjoy working with the most. It depends on what I'm doing. If I'm painting a portrait, oil paint I love. I like colored pencils for portraits too quite a bit though. I'm going to pull a little bit of magenta now onto part of his head and let that mix into the brown. I don't know, it really depends. Usually acrylics are my favorite because I can get so much done so quickly. It's like instant gratification, and you can just keep working and layering. You don't have to wait for things to dry. But normally, yeah, it really depends on what it is that I'm doing, because this, I wouldn't enjoy the process of an acrylic. I love the dry time, or, being that I can blend and do all of this with oils. Vladimir says, a random question. Have you ever drank paint thinner or paint water? Asking for a friend, not because I'm a moron or anything. Of course not. No, but Lena Dania has. She made a video talking about that. Her paint water, she uses in the same, or her paint thinner, she puts in the same jar as her regular water, which I don't really recommend doing for this reason. Actually, I've had to get on students about doing that. I had a student who kept putting her paint thinner in a water bottle, like a regular water bottle. I'm like, even if you don't drink out of it, chances of one of your kids coming up and grabbing that is not worth the risk. But anyway, no, what happens apparently, Lena had to contact Poison Control Center, and they basically say, do not induce vomiting, because if you do, it can end up in your lungs. That's where it ends up being a real problem. But drinking it itself, your body will flush it, so it's not end of the world. You're not going to die or anything, but do not induce vomiting is the big thing that they stressed to her, from what she was saying on that video, which she actually had done but she was okay. Because it can cause, I forget what it's called. It's some kind of lung condition. It's a big deal. Do not induce vomiting if you drink paint thinner. Just let your body flush it naturally and you'll be fine. But for me, I keep my paint thinner, step out of the way. My paint thinner, I keep in these little, it's the Mona Lisa brush tank. There's no way I'm going to confuse this with whatever I'm drinking. So that I strongly recommend. I also really like cups that have lids on them, so I can't accidentally dip my paintbrush into that. Not a problem for oil paint because I don't clean my brushes as I work, but for acrylics, I do that a lot. Let's see. Scrolling, I hate how this scrolls past the answers I was just talking to. Okay, Leela said, does being a pro artist ever take the fun out of art? Some people don't like the passion they once had for it as a career. I think it depends on what you do. One of the things for me I love about this is that I can pretty much paint what I want. I'm not limited to taking commissions. Commissions kind of you get excited because you're able to do something that you love, painting, but it's not necessarily a subject you want. It's not necessarily the best reference photo. There end up being some issues when you're taking commissions. Painting what I want here, like this one, I love painting portraits, but this one I got to choose the photo that I'm working from. It wasn't something that was provided to me that I'm like, oh, it's not the best photo. I get to paint from the best photo. So because of the YouTube channel, that has definitely allowed me to paint more of what I love, which helps to keep the fun in it, I guess. I mean, if I'm in the mood to paint whales, I can paint whales. I don't worry as much about, well, is this going to sell? This is really popular right now. I know that my buyers will be more likely to buy this. That's not something I have to stress about. So I would say for me, it's still very, very fun. It is work. I do have to stick to a schedule. So, I mean, there are times where I just don't want to work. I would rather watch a movie or do something like that. But I don't have time. So, I guess in that sense, it does start to feel more like work, but sorry, allergies kicking in. But at the same time, I mean, every day, I can't even begin to tell you how I wake up and it's just like, I am so grateful that this is what I get up and do. I don't have to go to the animal hospital and work. Hated that job. I was a receptionist there. Hated that job. My job was basically to argue with people and try to convince them to pay their bills. Not fun. No one wanted to pay their bills. So yeah, this is definitely, I mean, at the same time that it's work that I do love. And I don't know, it's been my life for so long. I decided to become a professional artist over 20 years ago. So it's just been part of my life of that for a very long time. But I will say, when I started moving more towards painting what I wanted because of YouTube allowed it to be even more fun because it was more what I wanted and not just because I thought something, commission-wise, I was looking towards commissions. Marilyn said, I meant to say I get lazy about painting. What I meant was I'm guilty of waiting for the inspiration to hit, and I do art, so I'm bad. I do art show, so I'm bad. I think I misread the first part I may be missing part of that. Let's see. I've got Chloe said, I'm thinking of starting a YouTube channel, but I don't know if I should buy an inexpensive camera or use my iPhone to record my videos. What do you think I should do? Okay, well, recording the videos, if all you can do is use your iPhone, use your iPhone. Use whatever you've got. But if you have the means to get a little video camera, I used one that was under $200 for years. It was a little Samsung something or another. I don't remember where is my... Oh, there it is. Brushes that is shedding, but I used that for a really long time and it served me well. The problem with using an iPhone is that's going to get very hot and it's going to be hard to record for, I'll sit and paint for 8 hours at a time. An iPhone really not going to be ideal for that. So the video camera that's made for recording video for a long time, that I think is a better way to go if you can afford it. But if you can't, then use the iPhone, use whatever you've got available. JPC13 Art wants to know how my sketchbook is going. How many pages have I done? Yeah, we're not going to talk about that. like 2. I have not had time lately, unfortunately. I have so many things that I'm adjusting, like it's just so much stuff on my website, and I'm having to change a bunch of links on my videos because I have the Amazon affiliate links, and they were previously set up through my YouTube network, which is kind of stupid on me. It was lazy on my part, not to just make my own, but it was set up through them. And then when the hack happened, I'm like, what if I have to cancel with them? All those links are going to be wrong. And so I've been going through and redoing that. And then I've got my parents coming in to visit, and I've been spending the last, that and another one. I did a special, which I'm excited to share with you guys. The people from Smart Art Box came, and we did the project, all 3 of us together, which was a lot of fun. So that goes up in a couple of weeks. But yeah, I have had a lot going on, and the sketchbook has just fallen to the back burner. I think it's funny that I use cooking things like that fall into the back burner. I don't cook, so like, what do I know about back burners? Jennifer says, can you do the underpainting concept with pencils, like graphite drawing under colored pencil? Graphite and colored pencil can be done, but I don't like how they work well together. The colored pencil doesn't stick real well. The graphite is too slippery, so it's not my preferred method, but you can with just colored pencil in general, especially if you're using powder blender. It works great. Aliona, she does that in her new book coming out. She'll show you exactly how to do that, but she's done it on some of her, if you go to her Facebook post or the brushandpencil.com Facebook's page, you can see where she's done samples like that, where she did the underpainting and then put the color on top, and it worked beautifully. But you can do it with colored pencil by themselves. Mara said, using liquid to make this glazing type paint will dry faster than using straight paint. Well, straight paint wouldn't be translucent. So yes, it will dry way faster with liquid than with straight paint. Straight paint, if I use straight paint, it could take months. I actually have had a painting take 2 months to dry even to the touch. Not to mention the curing all the way through. That was when I first started with oil painting and didn't understand how to thin the paint. But you're not going to get the translucency that I'm getting here. You're not going to build up nearly the same as what I've got here if you're using straight paint. You're going to be doing more of an impressionistic, more stylized. And that's a technique that I'm going to show you the next time I paint probably the same guy. I will show you painting it without glazing, but it'll have a very, very different look. So you can see as I'm building this up how I'm getting areas. I put that base layer of the brown first, and now I'm coming through with this brown mixed with a bit of magenta in for the darker areas. And while nothing that I'm doing tonight will be finished, like I mentioned earlier, it's going to take a good 3, 4, 5 more layers on top of this of painting similar to what I'm doing now. A lot of people look at it and go, well, it looks done now. Well, I could call it done, but it's going to look so much better with more layers on here. So much more realistic. And Mara, using the paint without liquid, it's super thick. It's globby. It's not, I do not like oil paints without thinning them. Anthony said, you care much about pigment information. I tend to go a bit crazy researching before I buy any paint. Artist paint is pricey. Not really. I mean, half the paints, more than half of mine are probably hues, not the true pigment. And honestly, for me, and you guys have heard me talk about this often enough, where it's like, I don't worry that much about it. I'm worried more about my values than the actual color. So if it's slight, I don't think it makes that big of a difference. So no, I don't personally worry that much about the pigment information. Like I said, most of mine, a lot of mine are the synthetic hues. Oops. Sayanti, well, I'm not saying that wrong, and I apologize. Fine Art says, you used to do a lot of oil over acrylics in your earlier videos, not so much anymore. Is there any particular reason or drawback, since I do that quite often? I got to where I started, back then when I was doing that, if you look back, I didn't do many colored pencil videos, and that was because if I used colored pencil, I only had Prismacolor, and I was so sick. I didn't even enjoy working in colored pencil because I was so sick of the pencils breaking nonstop. And so that's where the acrylic or oil over acrylic were my main go-to mediums at the time, because I could get my paints out and they did what they were supposed to do, unlike Prismacolor or the colored pencils I had at the time. So that was a large reason. And once I found my other Polychromos and then the Luminance from Caran d'Ache. Then I wanted to use more. That's when I started doing more with other mediums. And so that's largely, that brush is too stiff. 1 second. That's largely why all these brushes are too stiff. Okay, I know I've got one in here somewhere that'll work. There we go. Because I do more acrylic or more colored pencil, that's why I do less with the oil over acrylic or any other medium, really. It's because I'm mixing those. I use Inktense now. I do more with a lot of different mediums. And so that was the big shift, is when suddenly, oh, I like colored pencil now that they don't break when I look at them. So that is why that change was. But I still love oil over acrylic. I have so many mediums that I work in now. I try to rotate through them all. Let's see. Vladimir says, any advice for drawing a figure from the imagination? Yeah, don't. Another artist, and I can't remember his name right now. He had commented, and I loved how he worded this. He's like, when you first start painting and drawing, you don't have as big of a vocabulary. You need that reference photo. And I love the way he used the word vocabulary, and that is so true, because you will get to the point, if you've painted and drawn just hundreds of people, you won't be as dependent on a reference photo. But when you first start off, you need the reference photo. I don't know why people are so determined to work without it. The great way to have your work not look realistic is to not use a reference photo or a live model. Live model is another option. You don't memorize instantly how these look. You have to look at that reference to start with. I mean, it's the same with music, and I don't know why. It's funny because with music, you don't have this kind of stigma attached to it of, oh, you used sheet music, so you're cheating. I don't know why people do that with art. Oh, you used a reference photo, so you're cheating. What are you talking about? It always just kind of cracks me up. I'm like, that just makes no sense on why with music, no one questions it, but with art, everyone's like, oh, you used a reference photo. And not everyone, it's usually young artists. If you want your work to look realistic, use a reference photo. There's no way around, or it doesn't have to be a reference photo. Use a reference photo or a live model. There is no way around it. If you're not looking at something, it is not going to be realistic. I don't get this need, this desire people have. Oh, I want to do it without a reference. Why? Because you want your work to look bad? Go for it. That is my tip. I mean, assuming you're going for realism. If you're going for a very, very stylized look, then that's a different situation altogether. But for realism, you get a reference photo or you get a live model. Those are pretty much your options. Let's see. I've got JPC13 Art said, I've heard a lot of artists say do at use what? Vocabulary, man. You're talking like me. I can't understand it. I've heard a lot of artists say do at use paint thinner as a medium. Say they use, I bet, paint thinner as a medium. I have heard other artists say it's perfectly fine. Why is there such a mixed opinion? Oh, don't use paint thinner. That was really hard to read. I don't like paint thinner as a medium. It's not the consistency that I want my paint to be. It's too thin. I definitely like the results I get better with liquid. I guess personal preference there, but that is by far the medium that I prefer, or I much rather use. And even if I don't have liquid, I would rather linseed oil than the paint thinner. There are certain techniques where I will use paint thinner instead of the liquid, where I'm trying to create certain textures, but not very often. That's pretty rare for me. Mazzino says, forgive the wording in my past question. That's what happened. That's what happens when you ask about a medium you don't understand. What do you think about artists using art to make social commentary? Art's always been used to make social commentary, and I think that that's great if that's what you're for. My issue gets into, let's say you're an artist and you're not a political artist. You're, me. Let's say I suddenly decide to start voicing all my political opinions. No one needs to know my political opinions, and I think it hurts a lot of artists. I can't tell you through like these past elections how many artists, and I'm talking both sides. I'm just sick of hearing it. I don't care what side of the fence somebody is on. It gets ridiculous the way that people attack other people people. And I saw one artist and I unfollowed him. It made me mad. He was like, if you voted for this person, then you need to stop following me, stop watching my videos. Basically, he said anyone who voted for one person was a horrible human being, and went on and on. And it's like, even though I had no part of that process, the attacking of other people for their political views as an artist, to me, seemed absolutely ridiculous. And this is not an artist who is a political artist. This is an artist who, he's like me. He's just an artist. His goal is not political commentary, but he turned his disgust over somebody's election into this statement that pushed a lot. It pushed me away, and I'm not even into that thing, the whole politic thing. I think that unless you're actually a political artist, that is your goal, I think politics need to probably stay out of it. You end up, no matter what, you're going to upset about half of your viewers, because half of your viewers will be the opposite of whatever you feel about something. I don't understand why you would want to alienate people over politics. That's, to me, crazy. I would rather just treat everybody with respect and kindness. Makes more sense to me than attacking people like I saw a lot of artists do. It's like, you want to treat people like that? I don't care what somebody's view on something is. Just because we don't necessarily agree on a certain political standpoint, I wouldn't attack that person over it. I think it's just insane. So I think artists need to really watch where they decide to voice their opinions on when you get into social commentary and politics and stuff. I don't know. I just prefer to treat everyone with respect and kindness. I don't understand let's go and attack everybody. I unfollowed so many people on both sides of the political spectrum because they wouldn't shut up about attacking the other side. And I was just sick of watching people attack each other. It was just crazy to me. Like, I don't understand that hatred that was going on. I was just sick of seeing it. So and there were a lot of artists. I can think of 2 off the top of my head I stopped following, because more than 2 actually. There were quite a few I stopped following because of the attacks to the other side. And like I said, this is both sides. I won't tell people which side I fall on because it doesn't matter. Let's just treat everyone kindly. So with the social commentary, with political stuff, I think you've got to be really careful about that. Now, like I said, if that is your thing, if you are a political artist, then obviously that's going to be something you talk about and post all the time. That makes sense. That's what you do. But for an artist who is not otherwise really trying to turn their career into a political statement, I think that it's probably best left out. There are plenty of other people voicing their opinions. It's not like whatever your opinion is, somebody else is voicing it. And it seems like, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like the place to me. But art in general, as far as making statements, if you are, let's say that is your thing, making political statements, making social statements, art is one of the best ways. It's a great, great way to do that. You just, I think, have to really think about if that's the path that you want to take, because you will be judged on that by your viewers, and you may lose commissions. And if you don't care, I mean, that's, if you're, like I said, if you're a political statement, you need to choose a side. You need to, or a political artist, decide where you stand on that, and you would be clear. But again, I think it just depends on what type of artist you're going for. But using art to make statements, it's a great medium, a great avenue to do that. Just know when you do, you are going to alienate, wow, I pronounced that word, alienate, about 50% of your viewers. I'd rather just treat everyone nicely. Maybe I live in happy fairyland, but that's me. Tara says, the only oil paint I have is from Bob Ross sets. Let's see, I'm not really sure where to start. Here's the thing with Bob Ross sets. They are made for painting wet into wet. They are not made for glazing. They don't work well for glazing at all. I had a student who had brought them in. And again, they're perfect for Bob Ross style painting. That's what they're made for. But when you get into glazing and doing this sort of thing, the previous layer tends to lift off. It's like it reactivates. And so they just don't work good for this. Chloe wants to know if drawing a copyrighted piece will get one in trouble. For example, if somebody made a video on how to draw a Disney character or actor, but they didn't sell the piece, will they get in trouble? I can't say if they will get in trouble. They can get in trouble, though. Legally, they aren't supposed to do that. You're not, unless you have written permission from the copyright holder. It doesn't matter usually if you're not making money, they'll be like, what, it's not as big of a deal. But I've seen Disney go after people that weren't making money off their stuff. yeah, it's best just to not do it. You definitely can get in legal trouble. I can't say that you will. I can say that you can, and you have to decide if that is worth the risk. I don't think that it is. Artworks of DR or Doctor, I don't know how you want that pronounced, says, how many hours should you wait between layers? When painting thin like this, it's usually overnight or within 24 hours I'm able to go on to my next layer again. And those details in there. Chloe King wants to know if I will make a video of how to draw something from a copyrighted picture. Wait, what? Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm reading two questions together. My eyes are getting tired. We already did that. Okay, moving on. Kimberly Dickerson said, I was showing at a festival here in Arizona and I had someone tell me my work reminded them of yours. That's so fun. I had to analyze to make sure that it was my own design. That's funny. You know, everybody's work, you know how many people have painted portraits that look pretty much just like mine? Everybody's work is going to be well, not everybody's, but I mean, within a style, your work is going to be similar, and that's not something where you get into like, oh my gosh, copyright. Now, let's say you copied one of my paintings. I've got a painting on the wall that's super surreal, has Jupiter in the background and random planets and a tree and light bulbs coming off of it and the butterfly and the earth. Copy that exactly. That's pretty obvious. That's kind of unique. But I mean, a lot of stuff stylized or styles, they're going to be very similar. Mine are pretty, I don't know, I feel like mine are pretty generic, so they're going to be a lot of people who paint things that are very similar. It's a very common, maybe generic's not the right word, maybe common, I don't know. You're going to see a lot. Mara Black said, how long can you use the mop brush before colors start to create a problem in it and you have to stop and clean it? When you do clean it, how long does it take to dry? That is a great question. Okay, so the mop brush, when this one you can see it's fairly dirty. I've got a decent amount of, I'll put it over here. I think you might be able to see it better. I've got a decent amount of paint on that, but it still blends. I'm still working within browns, and so it's still fine. Now, let's say I suddenly wanted to paint some, blend over an area that was like a blue sky. I want to switch brushes. Those browns will blend into the blue. So that is an issue. To clean it, I just, excuse me, rinse the tip of the brushes in my paint thinner, and then I dry it as well as I can on a paper towel. I'm not going to use that brush for days, though. It's going to take days to be dry enough that I can really use it again. So I recommend having several. I mean, just on my easel right now, I've got 3 over here. These 2 and then that one. I probably got 20 of those brushes around because they do need to dry for a day or usually more than that, usually more like 2 or 3 days before they're going to be ready to use. And that's just if you get the tips with paint thinner. If you get paint thinner on the entire brush all the way up, it's going to take even longer to dry. And that needs to be 100% dry before you blend with it. Otherwise, you're just creating streaks instead of really blending. Let's see, scrolling through. Christina said, how can I tell if I formatted my questions for something for me on mobile? Looks like my last comment didn't work, and I don't want to make superfluous. I'm not going to say that word right. Superfluous. Surpoof. I know how to say the word, and my brain is like, I can read it, I can't say it. Surploof. I can't say it. I had it right almost once. I'm giving up. You know those words that you just can never say right? That's one of mine. Surploof. I can't do it. Comments. If somebody can, if Christina, if you guys are watching her comments, if somebody can highlight the question for her, if she can't do it on the mobile device, I'll try to watch for your comments. I will tend to miss them though, so I apologize. Child of the Snow wants to know if I ever took drawing classes to get this good. No, I just practiced a lot. I am self-taught. Scrolled too far. Dang it. I think half this live stream is me scrolling too far. Where did it go? Kelly said, do you think you'd be able to give me your opinion tips on my painting through Instagram instead of going over your waitlist? I'm glad that you asked that. Absolutely not. I don't have time. I haven't, gosh, my friend Aliona Nicholson, the brush and pencil lady, she called me today. I saw that I had to turn my phone off. I missed the call because my phone was turned off. I am so busy. I had to turn my phone off and I'm missing calls from my friend, knowing I would miss calls from friends and family. I can't get my work done. I don't have time to do what I already have to get done. I definitely don't have time to be giving people individual art tips. That's why I set up the groups on Facebook and Google Plus. I would love to give you guys advice, and I'm so flattered that you want my advice, but there's no time. Like, I can't even respond to emails like that. There's absolutely no time in the world, like, not even close to there being enough time for me to do something like that. Unfortunately, for a while, I offered a paid service where people could pay to get critiques, and now I don't even have time for that, so I had to pull that off my website too. I'm grateful that I'm very busy with art, but I really don't have time to do stuff. I actually had one lady get really mad at me on Patreon for that. She thought that I would be able to give individual advice, being that she was on Patreon, and I'm like, I don't have time for, that's not what Patreon is set up for. It's set up for the tutorials. And she was really angry at me. I think she canceled. Like, why don't you understand what yeah, I'm just busy. It's not that I want to be mean. I'd love to help everyone individually. But if I did that, I would really not sleep and not get any work done. I wouldn't have time for videos. I wouldn't have time for tutorials. I wouldn't have time for painting. I absolutely couldn't do it with the amount of requests I get to do individual critiques like that. I mean, and even individual questions. That's why I like these art Q&As, because you guys can come and ask and I'll answer right now while I work. But to respond to an email, like, I don't even open half my emails just because I'm so behind. I need an assistant badly, but yeah, no, that is definitely not going to happen. I do not do individual critiques at all, not because I'm trying to be a jerk, just because I don't have time. If I did, I'd have to stop making videos. And scroll too far. Dang it. Where did that go? Okay. Mystic says, would you consider painting hyper-realistic landscapes? Here's the thing. Every once in a while, I'm like, oh, I'd like to do something hyper-realistic because I understand the concept. Like, I know how it would be done. Basically, something that I would typically put 12 hours of work into, I'd need to put 100 hours of work into. The problem is I don't have time. Back to the time issue. There's no way for me to have time to do something. One of these days, I think I do want to try to do something or take the time to do something that's more hyper-realistic, but it's just not practical for me at this point to get something like that done and get my regular amount of work done. It doesn't fit into my schedule. So no, that's not any time on my to-do list. Like, I can do photorealistic very quickly, but hyper-realistic is a whole other thing. And a lot of people misunderstand the difference between hyper-realism and photorealism. Hyper-realistic, you can't really tell the difference between that and the photo. I love the look. I don't have time to do it myself. It requires so much time. What I'm doing here is adding the paint and then just smudging it with a very soft Taklon bristle brush. This brush is very damaged. This is one of my very first paintbrushes. It's from back when I used to leave my paintbrushes sitting in the water, and it got damaged really badly, and it works perfectly now for this. Don't throw away your damaged brushes. But no, hyper-realistic landscapes I think are phenomenal. I'm so impressed with people that do that and have the time to do that. I just don't. It requires way more time than I'm able to do. And really quickly, I want to thank our moderators tonight. We've got Valerie and Joseph, the Art of Joseph Fincham. They both got channels here on YouTube. Valerie does really cool wood burnings, and Joseph does paintings. Check those out. Subscribe to them as a thank you for helping me out tonight. They are huge helpers every week, and I love them. But definitely check out their channels. They've got some really cool stuff. Simone wants to know if the second brush I'm using is dry. Yes, this one and this one both that I'm kind of blending things out with are completely dry. Quinn wants to be my assistant. Yeah, I need somebody who lives in my area. Carla wants to know what the black stroke is next to his nose. It's a shadow, which will make more sense when the other shadows are more apparent. Okay. So what I'm doing, a lot of this I'm going darker than what I want my end result to be, but I'll come back and lighten it up later. That is going to be the wrong color. Oh, lost my reference photo. Wake up, computer. So I'm going to go over the brown of his eye here. I'm actually going to put that over the black too, which gives it a lot more depth. Now, on a lot of this, when it dries, I'll come back through with white for highlights to really define. But I don't need that just yet. Now remember, the whites of the eyes are not actually white. They're never going to be white unless it was taken with a flash and the eyes were washed out. So I'm pulling this brown tint over it. I'm just going to spread that out. Meets Art Gallery said, how often do you do portraits? And do you enjoy them as much as painting animals or wildlife? Yeah, I think I do enjoy them as much. I'm super, like, I don't know, there's just something about painting a person and having it look like that person. I don't know, that is like, for me, very exciting. It's like, I'm so proud of myself. It's that huge sense of accomplishment. I definitely do enjoy it, especially if I get to choose the reference photo. When I take commissions, it's not, and I don't take them anymore, so don't ask. But when I used to take commissions, that wasn't as much fun. Like I was talking about earlier, just you don't get to choose your photo. You're working from what they provide you with, and sometimes they're amazing, and sometimes they're not as amazing. And I don't think I have. Oh, I probably have some older graphite ones, or one I can think of a couple kissing that I never liked the photo. It was a bad photo. They were having me change the clothing and this and that, and it was just not the most fun to work on. And so I was never thrilled with the end result because of that. Here, I've got this amazing reference photo, and I know I'm going to be happy with my end result, and that sense of sense of accomplishment is just huge and fun, and I love that. So I'd say, in general, I like animals better than people, but I like painting people. Animals don't say mean things to other people. But how often do I do them? I don't know, whenever I'm in the mood or whenever I find a good reference photo. That's a big thing when you've got really good lighting and you're just like, wow, I want to recreate that and change the background and change the different things. And oh, I just found a bunch of stuff over here I need to adjust later on. But I think that painting people are a lot of fun. And I actually like painting bald men. And I haven't done any of those. I don't think I have any of those on my channel. But I love the way that the light shines on the head. I love recreating that. Oops, scrolled too far again. I just missed a bunch. BU wants to know if I teach hyperrealism. I don't have time to paint it, so I definitely don't have time to teach it. The process of painting those, it's just a very long one. I'm going to need a bit of blue on a lot of this over here, is a very, very long process. And so, no, it's not something I teach because I don't have time to even create it to do the lessons for it. Mystic wants to know if I have any recommendations for beginner portraits. I mostly do landscapes, but I'm thinking of starting portraits. Just do it. Just practice. And tracing is a really good way to get used to what the human anatomy is supposed to look like. One mistake that I see a lot of artists do when they try freehanding over and over again, they continuously do certain things wrong. Like they're like, I know how an ear looks, so I'm going to draw it this way every single time. Speaking of my ear, I needed to blend that out. But you'll get in your head, like, I know how this looks, and you'll keep making those same mistakes, so much so that they start to accept those mistakes as being accurate, as this is how it should look, because in my brain, I've convinced my brain that's how it looks. Whereas students where I've had them trace over and over again, they really got to where they understood what it should look like, so that when something was off, they were able to quickly recognize that there was a problem with the anatomy and then adjust for it. So that is one of the best things that I can recommend to get started on drawing things realistically. Riley Knight says, this painting is so good so far. Your palette is even pretty. Thank you. I know sometimes the palettes really do come out looking pretty. I feel bad throwing them away sometimes. Dennis wants to know if I've ever been interested in drawing on scratchboard. My husband actually loves scratchboard. I have not done it myself. I've seen some amazing work on it. I've done kind of a version of scratchboard with the Smart Art box. It wasn't the normal way, but it was fun. But I don't honestly know that much about it myself, because I've not done much with it other than the Smart Art box. Oh, Kaneho's already flirting with the model here. Kaneho wants to know what would you use to paint the smallest details, like the bright in his sexy eyes? I'm going to use white, like for the bright white area, I will use a liner brush. And that one is going to be, it's one that I have from Hobby Lobby. They're over here somewhere. This brush here, this one is a number 2 synthetic hog hair, and I will use that with my liquid fine detail and white to get the white detail in there, where I need to do a little bit more with his eyelashes. He doesn't have a lot of them on there, but where I'll do a little bit more with that, that's what I'll use, the liquid fine detail with that liner brush. Let's see. Mara Black said, we were asked to do a painting for a couple. By the couple, they're getting married. One of them wants it free as a gift to give the spouse. Would you then gift it, say bye to the money? You were asked to. Wait, okay, so somebody wants you to do a portrait. And I've had this happen. I think this is what you're saying here. Someone asks you to do a portrait. Hey, I want to give, my sister does this to me all the time. I want to give a portrait of my new boyfriend's kids to my new boyfriend. I want it to be from me, but I want you to paint it for me for free. Then that gift is from me. It's no longer from you. I don't know why people will do that. And I think that's what you're asking here, where people will contacting you like, oh, we're getting married. I want to give this as a gift to my spouse. If they don't pay for it, it's not a gift from them. It's a gift from you. I wouldn't do it. But see, I have a very strict rule, because I did have somebody who I had considered a friend really take advantage of me on that back when I first started painting. She suckered 3 paintings out of me for free. And I had agreed to do one because I'm like, I don't like to charge friends. Well, she broke me of that. It's not a problem anymore. Actually, I'd just rather not do anything for friends, because then it still gets weird. I don't want to charge them, but I'm also not doing stuff for free. But yeah, that was... something that I had to do for myself, is just say, nope, I do not do free paintings at all, ever, because you will have people take advantage of you. I mean, I've had people, and it's usually family members will contact you and be like, can you do this painting? I know so-and-so, and they love this painting, and I want to give it to them for Christmas. Well, if you're not paying me for it, then it's from me, not from you. That makes no sense. No, not doing that. Jennifer Kent wants to know if I will be doing a live stream of graphite portrait anytime soon. I don't know. I don't have one planned, but I'm sure I will sometime in the future. Emily says, no time for commissions. Yeah, no, I don't have time to take commissions anymore. The problem with that, I mean, you would think, well, you're going to paint and draw videos anyway, just do a commission off of it. The problem with commissions is that you have a back and forth with the person, where you're choosing the right photo, you're choosing the right size, you're choosing, you've got a lot of email back and forth to get everything right. And I don't have time for that back and forth stage anymore. What I do now, I may decide to paint something or to start a new painting that night and start that night. Like, I mean, I am so on deadlines here to get my videos up and my tutorials up that when I decide to paint something, I don't have time to mess around with emailing someone. Well, is this okay? Do you want this background? What does this look like? How do you feel about this? I need to just be able to sit down and paint it how I want it. And so, no, I stopped taking commissions altogether. I don't know if I'll open that up again in the future, but no, that's not something I'm able to do anymore. The only time right now that I take commissions are like bigger companies. Like I did take the commission for the Inktense, for the new Inktense boxes. I'm not sure when those are coming out. With Derwent, bigger companies I'll do commissions for. That's a little bit different. I did another project for Derwent that I think is going to go on the Michael's channel, or that was the plan. I don't know if they're using it or not, but stuff like that. But for individuals, I don't have time anymore. I'll leave those commissions available to you guys to take. And maybe I should start something like that on my website where I can refer people for certain commissions, because there are a few artists that I regularly can refer people to. Let's see. Alina says, I'm a learning artist and I also have AS, I'm guessing ankylosing spondylitis, and other similar health challenges. I find myself struggling with arm and neck pain while I'm working. Any suggestions? You're going to have to play around with what works for you. I mean, for me, you can see, well, you can't see in this video, but I sit up very straight all the time. I can't, if I slouch at all like this, I start having a lot of pain. If I look down, I can't work where I look down. And I used to prefer working flat on a table, or even I used to sit on the ground and paint. Really enjoyed that. And I can't do that anymore because of my back. So I had to figure out what would work for me and just readjust. And I've had to readjust several times through the years because I'll get to where I'm like, okay, I can't sit like that anymore. So I'll stop that and I'll sit another way. And that ends up, within a few years can end up being a problem. Now I just try to use common sense as far as what we know is good posture and just stick with that. And I've been okay lately, but working upright is a big deal. Working on an easel. As far as arm pain, or let's see, arm pain, neck pain, again, keep your head up, keep upright all the time. That makes a really big difference. For your arm, that I don't know. You're just going to have to play around with what's comfortable for you. You may have to stretch or move it more. You may not be able to paint in long periods. You may need to take breaks more often. I'm really not sure on that. That's not one I've had to do. I mean, I have the arthritis in my wrist, but that's a little bit different. That I just have problems with usually when working in graphite or colored pencil with the small motions. But good posture is a really, really big deal when you've got back problems. Oops. Scroll too far. Meets Art Gallery said, do you teach online via Skype, etc.? Nope, don't have time. I don't have time for commissions. How am I going to have time to do? I don't have time to do individual critiques. I definitely don't have time, unfortunately. And I would like to, I love teaching. It just, the time is an issue. So, no, I just do the big group things like this. Aaron wants to know what model airbrush I recommend for beginners. I recommend the same thing for everybody, and I can recommend what I use. I love my Iwata Neo. It's fairly inexpensive. It works really well. And then the air compressor that I use, I don't have it in this video. If you go over to my website, lachri.com, under supplies, look under acrylic painting supplies. I have the model that I recommend, links to those, and you can get those. I've got them linked to Amazon, but look at what they are, and then you can get them if you have a Hobby Lobby near you and use 40% coupons on them. So that will save you a lot of money. But those ones have worked really, really well for me. What color do I have on my brush right now? I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing. Need more magenta. So the lips right now I'm going a little bit darker so that I can come on top with the lights with my zinc white on parts of these, which will give me the blue tint that I kind of want on some of this, but I've got to get this a little darker first. Okay, maybe not that red. Too red. Tone that down. Definitely still too red. Actually, I can fix that easily by pulling some brown on top of that. Samilia says, do you have any particular opinion of lowbrow pop surrealist style? I think it looks cool. I like those styles. Sky said, let's see. I will help you move or wash your car, but not do my chosen career for free. Yeah, giving away paintings. That it's just so crazy how many people expect us to do that. Like, oh, it's fun. You like it. You're having fun. So do this for me for free. And it's like, yeah, you know, it may be fun, but the electric company still wants me to pay my bills, so I have lights so that I can make these videos. I think the really funny thing is when people want something for free and you tell them no, and they get offended. Like you've offended them by not. Like, wait, what? No, I'm the one who should be offended right now. It's kind of funny. JPC, or I'm sorry, JP Woody 76 said, "Hi, Lisa, I'm bald. Would you like to paint me?" Oh, I like bald heads. If you get a good lighting on your head. Let's see. Yeah, and asking for stuff for free. Tara saying, "My sister and other family member always wanted something for free. Greatly discounted graphite portraits from me." My sister, it's funny. It's my middle sister. Hold on. She'll date somebody new. I'm hoping she'll stay with the current one for a while. But she would date someone new, and every time she had a new boyfriend, which during this time period was every other week, she'd date someone new, and it's like she'd want to impress them by giving them gifts. I don't understand that concept either, but she wanted to impress them by giving them gifts from me. I'm like, what? That makes no sense. And I'm not going to take her money for a painting either. It's like, no, you don't give people like a new boyfriend a painting as a gift. That just, no. Emily said, "Do you think people can live off of commissions? I know of artists who have a 2-year waiting list, and I believe some of them don't have other jobs. Any other opinions are welcome." Yeah, you definitely can. I do know of several artists who do. And taking commissions, a lot of artists do like to do that. I make it sound like it's terrible and horrible. It's not. I mean, commissions are a great, great thing for artists. And if you can get a waiting list going, that's amazing. I actually saw an artist do something that I thought was really cool years ago. She had set up on her website the waiting list. You could see the names, or if it was going to be a surprise, you could see her waiting list. And I think it really worked to get people going, hey, I want to be on that list. I want to get on there. If you do a waiting list, make sure that you take a deposit. Don't just put people on a waiting list. Take a deposit, and also make sure you can deliver when your estimated time is. You don't want to have a waiting list, especially if people have paid a deposit. You don't want a bunch of people on that list who don't get their painting for 6 months after the estimated time. That's a good way to really upset people. But yeah, no, having the waiting list. And I, like I said, with the one lady, I loved how she did that. It was actually, I think, a husband and wife team that would do that. They'd have the waiting list posted. It was on their website. Like you could actually see it. It was really cool. And I think that it gets more people, because everyone wants what everyone else has. And when people see a lot of other people getting something like that, it makes you go, oh, I want in on that. I want to buy it too. So I think it was a really good marketing strategy. But it also let people know where they were on that waiting list. It was just a really cool thing to do. But no, commissions are a great thing for artists and especially if you can get that waiting list where you kind of know what money is coming in. But make sure you get that deposit so that people can be on the waiting list. Don't just randomly let everyone get on there, because if they haven't paid a deposit, they may not be serious buyers. Until someone has paid a deposit, you don't know if they're a serious buyer. And I think I have a Q&A video going up soon about that. But you don't know if they're serious until that deposit has come in. So you don't want to take up space on that waiting list for people who might not end up paying anything. But commissions were how I made the majority of my living, that and teaching for a very long time. But the biggest tip I can give you when doing commissions, take a deposit. Do not even dream of starting a painting until you have a deposit. Can't tell you how many people will tell you they want something, and then they turn around and are like, nope, I don't have the money now. Something came up, my car broke down, whatever. It happens all the time. And sometimes it's serious. I mean, stuff happens. But it happens often enough with commissions that you start to realize, hey, wow, people are just like, yeah, no, take a deposit. Meets Art Gallery wants to know if my husband has a YouTube channel. No, but he's told me several times if I die, he's taking over mine. So good luck with that. You guys will be learning cartoons. Also, we'll just hope I don't die. We have 6 senses of humor. Yeah, that came out right. Let's see. Scrolling. Whoops, I scrolled too far. Now, my husband's not super, he's hilarious, but he's not, I don't know, I can't see him wanting to be on, like, he doesn't even want me taking photos of him if I'm posting stuff online. Sarah makes art. I love this quote. This is one of my favorite quotes, and she just quoted it here. Inspiration exists, but it has to find you working. Pablo Picasso said that, and it is so true. Everyone that talks about, you know, oh, I've got artist block, I've got this and that, it's not going, your inspiration isn't going to find you first. You have to start working, and then the inspiration will find you. I love that quote. Thanks for mentioning that, Sarah. Ledwin V says, does fixative affect the paint, acrylic, and oil adherence to a canvas? When you say fixative, do you mean like the varnish? I'm not sure what your question is there. I'm going to need more information on that. I mean, if you're talking about a varnish, no. Fixative, the only time I don't really use a fixative, so I don't know. I'm not sure. I might be using a different word than you for something. Vladimir wants to know what kind of sharpener I would recommend. I feel like I've wasted my money on most of my college tuition on breaking lead with terrible sharpeners. I like the Kuma sharpeners, and I like those because you can replace the blades. You have got to replace the blades fairly often, and if you are using a graphite pencil in between, run that through. That'll help the blades to sharpen or stay sharp longer. So that's one tip. But I really like most of the Kuma sharpeners, and again, because you can replace them. I have had a few that I bought that were bad, but once you replace the blade, they were fine. They're really cheap, too. Anthony said, could you airbrush oil paint if you thinned it out? I haven't researched it. I've known of some people. I knew a guy who said he did. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I wouldn't do it in my airbrush because I wouldn't want to damage the airbrush. Airbrushes get clogged a lot. I mean, they're kind of a pain to clean, and I wouldn't want to run paint thinner through. Yeah, would not recommend it, but you wouldn't need it with oil paint because oil paint dries slow enough. You can get an airbrush look just by painting in the way that you blend. So I really don't see the point of airbrushing oil paint. Like, I've had people ask me that before, and I just don't see why you would need to. Scrolling here. Yeah, this is really true. S.L. Rogers Bird said, if you wish to make art for free, you will soon have no tools to make your art. If you wish to make the art for them, then have them get you the things you need to make the art. Yeah, when I first started, I had done this a bit where, actually the girl who suckered the 3 paintings out of me, she bought me like 1 tube of paint. Not worth it. I mean, you can do that when you're first starting. If you are really short paint supplies, you can do a trade for art. But ideally, the people should just pay you money and then you can buy what you need. That makes much more sense. Andrew said, in today's airbrush video, how did you airbrush sharp lines for the blades of grass? With the airbrush, when you hold it close to the canvas, the closer you are, the finer the line is. And you've got to, control how much paint. This is clogged. I need to clean this. You have to control how much paint versus air is coming out. But the closer, when you hold it close and then barely just a little bit of paint, a little bit of air, that is going to, the thinner lines are going to come that way. When you back up, you get the more blurry, fuzzy lines. But up close will give you that sharper detail. Mara Black said, I saw your tutorial of the flower you did for your mom. That's such a pretty painting. I love it. But what is the flower? It's not one of your orchids? That was surprising. It's like crow something. Crus, I don't know. It starts with, it's like CR something. I don't have it listed in front of me. I don't remember. Ledwin says, the fixative to prevent sketch on canvas from smearing. I don't use that. Okay, so I do know a lot of artists who will draw everything out with a graphite and then they'll put a fixative over it so that they don't lose those lines. I want to lose those lines. I don't want those lines staying. I don't want to ever see my graphite pencil lines. So I don't use a fixative. I don't have it doesn't work for the techniques that I use, or it's unnecessary, I should say, for how I paint. So that's yeah, I don't use it. So there's mine. But it shouldn't be a problem. Artists use those all the time. Just make sure you use an actual art fixative that is made, check what it is. I mean, with your paint oil over it, it can go over water or oil-based products. So you should be fine either way. Make sure it is for oil or for art supplies. Don't use hairspray. I know of so many artists over the years who have said just use hairspray to seal down the graphite. You don't know how that's going to react. Don't use that. Use actual art supplies and you should be fine. Oops, that just scrolled too far. Let's see. Fine Roman Art says, I've seen portrait painting books where the artist paints the underpainting in blue or green. Does that work better than black and white? It gives you a little bit of a different result because you have the blue or the green show through. I've seen that too. And usually the blue or green that you're seeing in most cases are the gray that looks like it's a blue tint, but it is a black and white gray. But yeah, no, I mean, you can do your underpainting in a lot of different colors and it's just going to affect your end result. Here, the gray that I used was mostly a warm gray because he's got these very warm tones in his skin. So it'll affect to an extent the end result because that color will show through the colors that you glaze on top later on. But there's no one right or wrong way. It's not like this is the way you should always do it. They're going to give you different results, and there are tons of different ways that people will do different things. And like I said, there's no one right or wrong way. If somebody tells you their way is the right way, the only way, those are the people I generally know. I'm like, okay, your tips are not necessary for me. There are so many. What is that? Oh, it's my chair making weird noises. Let me see if I can tighten that screw. That's weird and annoying. Oh, I can't get it from here. But there are lots and lots of different methods. And if the end result, if you see a tutorial like that and you're like, wow, I like how that came out, then try it. It's not like my way's the only way, their way's the only way. There are so many different ways. Try them all and see what works best for you. This brush is too big to smudge that. So I'm using a fair bit of magenta mixed in with my browns right now. Whoops, scroll too far again. Yeah, a crocus is the flower. You guys are saying, I don't even know if I'm saying that right. I've never heard it before. It's a spring flower that you're saying. C-R-O-C-U-S. Samila Rain said, would you recommend taking the plunge and buying artist grade supplies for first practicing with student grade for oil paints or watercolors, for example? I recommend the artist grade because you're going to have different results with those cheap supplies. You're not going to get a full feel for what that medium is. Like with acrylics, a lot of those don't glaze the way that I need acrylics to glaze. They can't do what decent paints can do. And it's not always about spending the most money. I mean, you guys know I like Liquitex Basics, which are a less expensive paint. And not because they're less expensive. I'd be willing to pay more for them. I just like that paint. But yeah, no, I recommend starting with artist grade supplies unless it's a kid. Like if it's a kid under 12, it seems like once a kid hits 12, that's when they really start to focus, to kind of sit still longer and really pay attention to what they're working on. And they can copy what they're seeing better. Then I move them to artist grade stuff. But younger, you can get away with some of the cheaper stuff because they're just getting a feel for the paint, learning to control their hands. So at that age, I don't really worry too much about it. But after 12, yeah, no, I definitely recommend artist grade. If you really want to learn to use that medium, learn to use the medium with the proper tools. Because it's not just, and the same thing with canvases. Using a crappy canvas is going to make it really hard. I mean, the smooth blending that I'm doing here, if this canvas was bad, like a Costco, Walmart type canvas, I'm not going to be able to do the same thing. So I can't learn to blend right if the canvas can't handle what I need it to do. And I mean, maybe you don't want to go with, I love this one being the oil prime blending, but let's say you wanted to go a little bit cheaper, go with the blue label, the Fredrix blue label. It's still a good canvas. Gel Bell asks, how do I choose the size of my canvas I'm going to paint on? Well, in this case, I knew I wanted it to be big enough that I could actually get a fair amount of detail in there. So 18 by 24 seemed really good. It depends on what the project is I'm doing. It used to be when I took commissions, I let the customer choose or the client choose what size they wanted. But a lot of it is to do with what it is that I'm painting. You can see a lot more magenta goes into a lot of these areas. Let's pull some of this brighter red here. You can tell when I'm concentrating. It's the one time I shut up. Doesn't happen often. But yeah, choosing the size, in this case, I knew how much detail I wanted to add, and I knew what size I needed. Like an 8x10, I wouldn't be able to get this kind of detail on it. So that is largely how I will choose the size. But I don't want to paint, like a 24x30 is way bigger than I was in the mood to paint. So those are not good answers, are they? I don't know how helpful that is to you. I want it big enough I can get the detail I want, but not so big in this case that I was going to have to spend the next year working on it. Mara Black said, I'm finding it difficult to cover my drawing up with paint of the transfer paper ink, or trying to erase it before trying to paint, pressing so lightly. It's a mess. Any advice? The low Cornell one works fine for me. When painting oil or acrylic, I've been perfectly happy with that. Paint your paint thicker over it then if it's not covering up. Don't use so much water. Andrew wants to know how I clean the mop brush or any paintbrush with dried paint. By the way, your flower painting was really beautiful. Thank you. I soak it in the Masters brush cleaner. It's, you can get it in these little round tubes. I think I have it in the video description. If it's dried oil, I've not gotten that off, although I've heard people say they use like Murphy's oil stuff to get that off, or Goo Gone got restored brushes. I've never tried to restore one completely that was completely dry, but if it's just starting to dry, I've got a few of these that are a little bit stiff. I'll soak them for a few minutes in my Masters brush cleaner, and that will bring them back to a pretty good condition. But I don't work super hard. Like if something's really ruined, I know a lot of people will work to bring it back completely. I have so many brushes. I just save that one, like the slightly damaged brush, and use it for something else. Because damaged brushes sometimes are the only brushes that I can get certain techniques with. Sarah Makes Art said, on the topic of making statements, what are your thoughts on making art inspired by one's personal life when one doesn't normally do that? I think that art is a great way to speak out on something like that, or to share your experiences with. Art is one of the best ways to kind of, you can put stuff into, or visual representation of stuff that you might not have the words to do. So somebody who doesn't really like to talk about their life but wants to express themselves, I mean, that's really kind of been the point of art throughout history. Well, that and to make something pretty for our walls. Emily said, what do you suggest is a good price for a deposit, percentage-wise, I mean? Anyone can answer. I'm interested to see what others are charging. 50% is pretty average. I used to charge $100 because it was like, okay, that's enough that I know you're serious. And I don't know, I felt weird taking too much money before my side of the job was done, but that's not typical. Most of the time people take 50%. And that deposit should be non-refundable. Let the people know. Once you start on something, that deposit, they don't get that back. If they change their mind, if they don't like it, whatever, that is your money. That is to cover your cost and time of supplies. Time and cost of supplies. That didn't come out right at all. Pics by Lisa wants to know what my chicken thought of the final graphite portrait of himself. He didn't care at all. Am I going to give him a print for his cage? He would just chew on it. Oh, just scrolled too fast past a question. Mystic wants to know what I recommend. Oh, this was not the question. Coloring Korea said, have you tried doing pencil and sanded pastel paper? Have you tried doing pencil? Not graphite. I have with colored pencil and love it. I have no need for it for graphite. I like super smooth. Okay, I'm going to leave most of his head alone, I think, for now, and go ahead and fill in his body quickly. Mystic said, would you recommend using liquid for every layer? I do. JP Woody 76 said, I am looking forward to your video on smooth Gray backgrounds with graphite powder. Any idea when it will be up, please? Next Wednesday. A week from today, that video will be up. Oops, there we go. Okay, let's get some of this down really quickly now. I'm just going to put this over everything here. And that will blend right into the background. Move some of this stuff out of the way here. Big Smiley says that the chicken's just being humble and modest. No, he's actually not real thrilled that he's not allowed in my room when I'm oil painting. So he can't come in the studio right now. And he does not like that because he likes to hang out with me in the mornings while I'm editing video. But he can't come in here at all until this room is completely aired out. And that is going to be quite a while since this painting is taking me quite a while. He's not thrilled with that. There's a hair in there. There it is. Mara said, do you like working with your palette vertical? Do you prefer to have it flat so it won't run? Yeah, flat so it won't run. I don't work vertically at all because of how much paint thinner I use. It doesn't make sense. And even then, the paint would slide. It's not something I am interested in. I know there's a palette that sits up right next to your easel. It seems great in concept, but it's just not practical for how I paint, for many reasons. There were many reasons or issues I had with that palette. But as far as being able to clean it and all of that, it's just definitely not for me. But yeah, flat is the way that I prefer to keep mine. It works best for me. Beck wants to know if I just call if the chicken has a name or if I just call him Chicken. Victoria wants to know if I've tried the Verdaccio for oil portraits before. No, I've not heard of it. Obviously I can't even say the name. So we're going to go with no on that. Mike Rock 25 said, for hyper-realistic drawings, which is better, Bristol, board, vellum, or smooth? Well, I don't do hyper-realistic drawings, so I'm not going to be able to tell you on that, and I think it's going to be personal preference either way. I would imagine the smoother the better, but it depends on what medium you're working in, too. If I were personally, let's say I was going to do a hyper-realistic graphite drawing, or even with colored pencil, I would probably go with the Fabriano Artistico Hot Press myself. I don't like vellum. I don't know. Vellum is just too smooth for me, and it's not my preference. Quinn wants to know what made me want to get a bird. I grew up, my parents bred macaws and, oh, there's a hair stuck in there too. Bred macaws and lovebirds. And I mean, I grew up hand feeding baby birds. And I just have always loved them. And I haven't had one in, gosh, 10 years. I don't know, a long time. And we were at a zoo recently, and there was a palm cockatoo who was being so cute, trying to get everyone to rub his head, even though he was behind, like you couldn't actually reach him, but he was so cute. And I was talking to my husband, I'm like, I really miss a bird. And my husband loves animals, and he was saying how he'd really like to get one again. And so yeah, we decided that day we'd get a cockatiel, and that was on a Friday. By Sunday we had a cockatiel. I was able to find the most awesome breeder really quickly. So that was how that happened. That was a very quick but I mean, it wasn't like a total impulse buy, because I have a ton of experience with birds. So that was how that guy happened. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of those brush strokes here. Mara Black wants to know how I remember the exact paint mixtures for his body that I used for his head. Do you have any notes on the side? No, I mean, I can look at it and just know, okay, these are the colors I want. It's close enough. I don't stress, you guys know that. I do not stress about color that much. I stress about value. Values are what makes things look super realistic. Color matters, but not, no, see, I'm starting to create streaks. You can't really see that here, but this brush is wet enough. I'm creating streaks, so I know that needs to go to the side, and I need a clean, dry brush. But values are where my concern is. So, like, this color isn't even close to being right. This is just a base. Let's see. Now I can start coming through with some of the magentas. Carla wants to know if I've ever used baby oil as mineral spirits. No, and I know a lot of people like to do that for colored pencil, and I strongly recommend against it. It makes the pencils weird. Yeah, it blends. It's not guaranteed. I don't know how that's going to hand up archival-wise, but it doesn't really ever dry right. There are problems with that, and I don't recommend it. It's not something I would ever personally use on my art supplies. Use art supplies that are meant for art supplies in most cases when it comes to something like that, because you can affect the archival quality of your work. And the way that baby oil reacts to paper, I do not like the result that you get. And you can't really layer right because it doesn't really dry right. So, you know, if you're doing it for your final layer, it'll look cool. I think it's cool for crafters. I don't think it's good for fine artists. So yeah, when choosing the color, I look at it and it's like, okay, I need kind of an orangey red here. I need a magenta red here. And that's where I choose, you know, I'm like, okay, so I go to a reddish orange or a reddish brown color. That's really what it boils down to for me. It's very, very simple. I do not overthink this process. And I have to say too, painting this way where you've got that underpainting, it is just so fun. Like this layer, and from here on out, these paintings are an absolute blast because I'm not stressed out. I don't even have to worry. Like I'm worrying about here my values and my colors. I don't care that I've already got the eyes. I know the eyes are where I want them. I know that the muscle tone is where I want it. I know that that part is done, and it makes the overall painting from this stage out, I don't know, it's just so enjoyable. I love it. Like I have so much fun painting like this. And who is it? JPC 13 Art, are they still here? I think they kept asking me about reading A Court of Rose and Thorns or something like that. Who was that? And if you are here, let me know. I have a question for you about that book. Riley Knight said, random question, how did you come up with the name Lachri? It's a combination of letters between my name and my sister Christy's. And it turned out, years later, I found out that I have a half-sister, Leanna, and her name fits into those letters too, so that works out perfectly. So all three of my sisters are mixed into that name, unintentionally, but it works good. That way, you know, if Leanna's name didn't fit, I'd have to rename her. She's really easygoing, though. I'm pretty sure that she would have let me rename her. Simone said, would you ever show this painting to the model? I would be blown away if someone painted my reference photo. I doubt he cares. I don't know. I mean, he got paid for whatever he did with reference or graphic stock. I don't even know how I would find the model. I've done celebrity portraits. Like I had shown some of the ones I did for James Marsters. I think he saw his. I think it was years ago. I don't remember. Did I send? I think I sent him his. So as I get into here, I'm not going to be as detailed. I'm really going to loosen up a lot where it fades out into the background. These brush strokes will. Let's see, I'm going to pull some of the raw umber now, where I want this kind of grayish brown. And a lot of people are always stressing about color. Don't stress yourself out about that. You're going to understand color. All of that comes with practice. Don't worry if your first few paintings you're like, wow, that color looked terrible. Great, you just learned what not to do. So that's awesome. Beck wants to know how to go about titling your pieces. I always struggle to find the perfect name for my work. You know, usually I will name stuff after, the heck? One second. Text for my mom. Let me make sure this isn't important because she goes to bed super early. Imagine the cancer for the... I don't even know what she's talking about. She did something with her will or something, and she needs me to know where the paperwork... I don't know, and I think that's what she's talking about there, and I don't know what she's talking about. Maybe part of it is like, I don't want to hear about a will. I don't want to know anything about it, so I'm going to tune you out right now. She's being responsible. I'm being very immature and live in a world of, my parents will never get sick, and like, that's not happening. Let's see. Joe said, it was not me, but I read that book. Do they ever get to past the point? I'm having a really hard time, and just kind of not really spoiler alert, because it's at the beginning of the book. I just started it. The girl was taken. She killed one of them, and she was taken, and I think this is in the like credits or the book description. So again, no spoilers here, but she was taken from her family because she killed one of them. And they basically are like, hey, you killed one of us. You get to live in this super awesome place, and we're going to take care of you, and you're totally safe. Like, I'm having a hard time getting past the why. Wait, you're punishing her by giving her the most awesome life you can. What? I'm very confused about that right now. So all I want to know is, do they explain why, or is that just a really silly plot? Like, what? I don't understand why we hate you, you killed our friend, but I'm going to do, you know, our law says either you choose to die or to come live with us forever. Wait, what? Why? I just want to know if there's an explanation for that eventually. Mara Black said, will you sign this with a color that's very noticeable or a color that blends with the painting? A color that blends with the painting. It'll probably be black. I don't know. We'll see. It will need to be something that you can see the signature, because the signature is important. That's what would make this painting worth something. It's about the artist. I say this all the time, as much, if not more, than the art itself. So it needs to be noticeable, but I'm not one who would take like bright red and where there's no red anywhere else. I want it to not distract you away from the point of the painting, but I want you to easily be able to find the signature. I may go a little bit longer tonight because I'm just going to quickly finish up the majority of the skin tone here. Because after the live stream, I have to stop painting. I have to go clean the rest of my apartment. My parents are going to be here tomorrow. Do you guys do that when your family comes? It's like, my apartment's always clean, but now that they're coming, it's like, I don't know, I have to organize stuff better and get it more, even though I know my parents could not care any less. But I feel like I've got to get laundry done and stuff that doesn't matter. Let's see. Sky said, Beck asked before your mom's test. Oops, I must have missed one. And it's Mom's Day soon. How do you go about titling your pieces? Oh, yes, I started to title it. Thank you for bringing that up again. Okay, for me, more often than not, I actually will title them after songs that I listen to a lot. Like, there was a surreal painting before I did YouTube videos that I had done years ago, and I was listening to Yellowcard's Light Up the Sky over and over. I just put it on repeat because I'm very obsessive. So I listened to that song pretty much the whole time I painted that painting, and that's what I titled the painting, is Light Up the Sky, because that's what I was listening to obsessively nonstop for months. I don't know why I do that, but anyway, that a lot of mine are titled after Amberlin songs, because they are my favorite ever. So a lot of my paintings, I mean, like The Art of War, which the title fit with the painting anyway, but then it was after one of the songs I had been listening to a lot, so that's how I end up titling a lot of them. Another way that I'll title words is to look up, or just do a search for beautiful words. Sometimes a word's just gorgeous, and then I'll look up, if I don't know the definition, and see if it would fit with that painting. I do that a lot. So, like, I have my flamingo, I named it Cinder, because I don't know, just the heat and hot, and that fit with the colors of the painting, and I liked the way the word cinder sounded. So that's how I do. I mean, everyone does it a little bit different. I tried not to go super cheesy. I like them to be a bit more random. I don't know if random is the right word. Oh, Christina, you're disappointed I didn't read your mention. I probably missed it. I'm sorry. The scrolling goes by. I don't always see it when I look at the painting, or yeah, picking hairs out there. I try to catch all of them, but I do miss them sometimes. Some more of this orangey red color here. Quinn wants to know if you run into legal issues when naming it after songs and pop culture. No, well, you can't. I mean, you can't copyright the word. You could trademark different sayings, but I'm not doing anything with their creation. What I'm doing is something totally different. It's not within the same. So even if it were trademarked, it's because of how trademarks work. It's something that's not, we're not competing. We're not in the same field. If I named a song, well, I mean, and even with songs, how many songs are named the same thing? You can't really trademark certain things. It's too broad. And if it was like, okay, Light Up the Sky is a little less broad, but it's still, I mean, that can be, anyone would say light up the sky from anything. That could be fireworks. That could be anything. So, no, you really don't run into problems with that. And there could be exceptions, and you will probably have people who are going to be jerks and like, no, that's our name for whatever. You can't use it. But for the most part, they're not going to really win a battle in court, because when you get into trademarks, and this is not legal advice, by the way, talk to a lawyer if you want actual legal advice. But my understanding is when you get into trademarks, that's a huge different thing, because you can't copyright words. You trademark the words, unless it's a song. I mean, you could copyright the song itself, but I'm not using the lyrics or their whole lyrics. I'm not using that in a field that would be the same. So like, let's say I trademarked the term Lachri. A car company could use that word in their whatever, and that's not the same, whereas another artist couldn't, because we're both in the same field, if that makes sense. And again, legal stuff, not advice. Talk to a lawyer if you want good advice, but no, generally speaking, it's not really going to be an issue. Susan Cooper, have you ever worked on drafting film with colored pencil or graphite? I have not, and I want to. I'm really interested to see how that feels. I've never tried it, and it's one of my things to buy, and for some reason I always forget every time I place an order for art supplies. For so many years, most of my art supplies came from anything I could get at Michael's or Hobby Lobby, or whatever store was local. And it wasn't until more recently that I started buying stuff online. My problem with the online stores, though, I feel like the way they're set up, they're not good for browsing. It's like if you don't know what you're looking for, it's hard to find new cool stuff. I have that happen all the time when I shop. Dick Blick's one of the worst. I hate the way their website's set up. Like, I can do a search and find what I want, but actually, like, oh, I just want to browse and find cool things to buy that I might like, that I want to try out. Because when I was doing for my newsletter, I would have an art supply of the week. And I wanted to try different things, but I couldn't find. I honestly stopped doing them because I ran out of new stuff to find. PZ Cherokee wants to know if I studied art in college. Being that I did not go to college, we're going to go with no. I am self-taught. Like how I assume you guys just know things. Like, what? You don't know that? How do you not know that? Can you not read my mind? I'm going to take the key. Whoa, that was a bit more than I wanted. But actually, that'll work, so I'll blend that. I'm going to pull some of these highlights back out where I got a little bit too dark. And that is working perfectly. And I can do some of that with a paper towel too. Joe said that the Court of Rose and Thorns and whatever that I'm not saying right is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. That's interesting. I didn't know that. She's considered an indenture of sorts, but also a vehicle for other plot moments, trying to be vague. I appreciate that, and I didn't know that, and I love that because I love Beauty and the Beast. So that is interesting. I'm going to finish it, and I love that that book, it's narrated by, well, the first books, I know that she stopped narrating them on the end, which is disappointing, but Jennifer Akita, Jennifer Akita, whatever her name is, I love her narrating. She did, what were they, the All Souls trilogy. Love those books by Deborah Harkness. I think she's such a wonderful narrator. So, I don't know, she just really pulls you into the story, so... I mean, I'd finish them, but that was one thing that's just been sitting on me. I'm like, I think that the plot of you're not a slave. You just live here in this palace and get cool clothes and nice food. And we don't really have a good explanation other than the treaties say that your options are for us to kill you because you killed one of us. Or you can just come live with us in this awesome world. And we're going to take care of your family. And everything's going to be perfect and amazing. And it's like, I don't know. It just seemed like something's missing in the plot here. Like, I don't understand the why of them bringing her in who killed their buddy. I don't know. So I'm hoping that that gets explained a little bit better soon on the why they would even have that in the treaty of, oh, you can just come live with us. There's got to be a reason for it, and I just haven't gotten there, but it's driving me. That's the one thing I'm not liking about these books right now. I'm not that far in, so. So I'm taking my Viva paper towel, and this will not work with regular paper towels. I stress this all the time. Use Viva. I've got a hair in there I need to pick out. Use Viva paper towels. They're more cloth-like, whereas Bounty is not going to do this. Or whatever other brand. You could also use an old t-shirt or an old rag. That would give you similar results. But see, I'm able to pull a lot of these highlights where I had gone darker than what I really want that end result to be. Susan Cooper says she thinks I need to do a portrait of John Middick. Yeah, he doesn't have any good photos of himself. Mara Black wants to know what the best paper to use for powder blender. I love Fisher 400 is my favorite. Next would be UArt 500, but Fisher 400 really is just the most perfect. I absolutely love that paper. I get it pre-mounted from ProArtPanels.com. I think I've got a link to their website on my website supply list. But that's my favorite. You can also gesso paper. I did that a couple of times. I won't do it again, I don't think. It's too much work. It's so much easier just to use the sanded paper, and I really like the results I get with sanded paper. So that is definitely my go-to now. Andrew wants to know, when you start building a website, which company is better, Wix or Squarespace? I'm not sure. I've not used Squarespace, so I don't know a whole lot about them. Wix is decent. That's going to be up to you. Look at samples of websites done on both. I'm not sure. I would check what their prices are too for the paid services. I personally prefer doing websites through WordPress that you can build yourself, and I do mine. My hosting company is EMWD. It's like, I don't know, you can spend like $8 a month. Mine's more because I'm on a dedicated something's VPN server or whatever. But for like $8 a month, you can do a WordPress website that you have more options. Basically, if you can learn to do that well, you have a lot more options than what you do through Wix or Weebly. Now Wix, or not Weebly, well, no, Weebly would work too. Wix or Squarespace. Those websites are nice because they do all the updates. You don't have to worry about that. But I really am a huge, huge fan of websites built through WordPress. And again, you have to get your own server. And so that's where I use EMWD. But it's not that expensive, and you can do a lot more with that than what you can do on the Wix and Squarespace. But check what the prices for paid services are on Wix and Squarespace, because that may make a difference. I'm not sure what theirs are. I know Wix is a decent company. I've seen some really cool websites built with them. I think was it them I talked to? They wanted me to do a promotional thing for them. So I made you a video showing you guys how to build a website through them. But I don't know a lot about Squarespace. I've not looked into them at all myself. I think the Wix and Weebly and Squarespace, those are, I mean, they have some free services you can use if you're serious about art. Really, $8 a month is worth it. But you are limited by their platform. It's if you're serious, learning to do it and having the freedom to do things through WordPress is definitely going to do more good for you in the long run, I think. But again, those sites are easier to initially set up. But the nice thing with WordPress is it'll grow with you. You can change things really easily without having to be like if you were on Wix or Weebly and you decide to change certain things or you want to expand, you're a little bit more limited on what you're able to do. Whereas WordPress, I think, will grow much, much better with you. Okay, so this is going to dry, and what I'm going to do for a lot of this, I've got to come back through with some purples. I'm going to need blues, again with the browns. It's going to take a lot more layers for me to get what I want, but I think this is a good place to sort of stop. Actually, one thing I want to do different, I'm going to wipe my brush off, get most of the paint off, and I'm going to come back through with the green. I want to pull these green colors into his skin here. I don't know if you can see that. This might start getting off camera, but I want that background to fade in, so I'm going to pull the green of the background now into his shoulder and into the bottom here. JPC13 Art said it will get explained in the book. Also, the first one is okay. The second book is so amazing. It blew the first one out of the water, and the third book is so good. Okay, good to hear. I'm really enjoying those books. There's fairies, and I love, like, those are usually my favorites. Like fantasy stuff, and I like, you know, vampires and all that stuff, but fairies are always my favorite stories. I'm going to pull some of the green down on his chest because this is going to blend into the background as well. And I'm letting those brush strokes show. I want this to be really rough. Mara Black said, are you going to have perspiration on him, say the collarbone area? Well, it's not perspiration on him. He's not actually sweating. He's glossy. I actually suspect they sprayed an oil or something on him to get his skin to be super shiny. They do that a lot with bodybuilders, like certain oils and stuff, so that everything shines on them, because this guy is built. He's huge. His muscles are just huge. So I think that they put the stuff on him that they'll do like the bodybuilders when they're doing stuff, so they look better on camera. So he's really, really shiny in areas, and that I am capturing. I do want to keep the shine super, super bright. Right now I've toned it down a little. I'll come back through and brighten some of this up later on. But yeah, that sweat, no, but glistening, I guess, yes. But I don't think it's actually sweat on him. I suspect that he's got an oil on him. But yeah, that is going to be it for tonight. And so this has to dry completely before I come back through and do anything else. And what happens is this starts to get very tacky up here. So even if I wanted to keep working up here, it's not a good idea because it's very tacky. It's not going to blend right. Is there a hair in there? I think there's a hair in there. Where'd that brush go? It keeps falling on the floor. Okay, where'd it go? I just saw it. And now I don't see it. It'll come to me when I'm looking again later. But I need to let that dry because I don't want it to get to the point where it starts to lift weird. There it is. I used so much liquid on this. It's drying very, very quickly. And so it does start to get to that tacky feel. Now, if I were painting details and such, I could keep painting on top of it with the tacky feel. But being that I'm doing so many glazes, it's better to let this dry and come back and glaze again later. And I need to blend this out, though. I don't know what I did there. Too rough. Smudge that. Okay. So, actually, with what's little's on here, I want to get this reddish color. A little bit darker in here. There we go. Okay. Let's see. I've got Marquise Washington wants to know if I can do a review on the Caran d'Ache Pablo colored pencils. I need to talk to them. I need to get them to send me some to review. I talked to them at an event I was at, and I'm bad. I needed to contact them after the event, and I just haven't gotten around to it yet. I do have the guy's card. No, I don't have his card. I have his number. I can get that, though. So I do need to do those. Let's see. Ebony Blue 13 wants to know if I know of any good channels that teach how to make videos, or have you done one on how to make a video? I actually want to do a video, maybe a live stream one day, of the editing process and how I make mine. I'm going to do a tech video that talks about the video cameras that I use and all of those. That's sometime in the near future. I just haven't gotten that far yet. But, wrong side. Nope, that one's dirty. I need a clean Q-tip. There we go. Hold on, sir. I need to Q-tip your nose. That's not weird at all. Just sit still and let me do this. That's a little better. But I do want to do a video showing you guys how to do that. Now, there is one video. If you look up Power Director University, there's a guy, Malik something. He's kind of funny. He's like awkward but funny at the same time. He does tips and tutorials on how to use Power Director, which is the video editor that I use. So he's a good one. He's got some really good tips on his channel. So that would be one that I could recommend. But other than that, it depends on what video editor that you're using, I think. Whatever you're using, look up tips and tutorials for that. The only good Power Director one that I know of, though, that makes videos on YouTube is the Power Director University. Let's see. I just scrolled down, just checking really quick to see if I'm missing anything. I think we are good, so we can go ahead and wrap this up, and I need to stop messing with this because I could sit here for another hour just screwing around with things where I probably should just stop, let it dry. Oh, that's a little too bright, too dark. Soften up. There we go. I'll just keep noticing things forever. Mara wants to know if I'm going to name him Sue. I am not going to name him Sue. Christian Jimenez asks, did I use Liquin for the black and white base or odorless mineral spirits? I used Liquin. I don't paint myself with odorless mineral spirits as a thinner for most things. Occasionally for certain techniques, but very, very rarely will you see me use paint thinner at all while I'm painting. I generally use that to clean my brushes. Let's see. Okay, so I'll go ahead and wrap this up. Again, thank you to the moderators, Valerie and Dead Jester, or The Art of Joseph Fincham. Check out their channel here on YouTube. I've got links to both of those in the video description. Subscribe to them as a thank you for helping me out with these. And this video should be up, not next week, 2 weeks from today, I think is the day that this video should go live. I'm not sure what next week's live stream is going to be. It might be this again. I don't know. We'll see. I'm taking the next few days off because my parents are going to be here. So I doubt I'll get much time to paint, although they go to bed really early. So maybe I'll paint sometimes in the night. But if you don't hear from me on social media, that's what happened. And Mara Black really wants me to name him Sue. I don't think he just doesn't look like a Sue to me. But thank you guys so much for joining, and I will see you guys next. Well, I've got the video coming up tomorrow. I've got a live stream, a question about getting lines in acrylic drawing, and Saturday's video is my review of the Marco Refine, that I'm probably not saying right, colored pencils. But yeah, and I have no idea what next Wednesday's live stream will be, but I will be here. I'll see you guys then. Bye.